Imagine the paradox of human connection. The ones who flee intimacy, who seem cold, distant, unreachable, are often the ones who harbor the deepest yearning for it. They build walls not to keep you out, but to protect something fragile within. Avoidants, those who dodge vulnerability, are not devoid of desire. In fact, they are consumed by it. And what truly captivates them, what they secretly obsess over, is not just anyone, it's the high-value partner, the person who radiates strength, self-worth, and independence. This dynamic is not a mystery, it's a dance between fear and admiration. Avoidants fear losing control, yet they crave the grounding presence of someone who doesn't need them but chooses them. That tension is magnetic. But here's the catch to understand it. To navigate it, you must first understand yourself. You must become the person who commands respect, who embodies value, and who cannot be ignored. Fear is a primal force etched into the very foundation of human existence, yet it manifests in countless forms. For the avoidant, fear is a quiet tyrant, a shadow that governs their every move without their conscious consent. This fear, though often disguised as aloofness or indifference, is far from the absence of feeling. It is instead a deeply rooted terror of vulnerability, of the exposure that comes with truly opening oneself to another human being. Vulnerability is a sacred act. It is the act of laying bare your soul and inviting another to witness your imperfection, your frailty, your humanity. And for the avoidant, this invitation feels like stepping into a lion's den unarmed. Imagine the story of Adam and Eve hiding in the Garden of Eden after eating the forbidden fruit. They are not hiding because they lack love or because they don't care. They are hiding because they are ashamed, because their nakedness has been revealed. This is the essence of avoidant behavior, a desperate attempt to conceal what feels unworthy, a retreat into the foliage of self-imposed isolation to avoid the piercing gaze of judgment, whether real or imagined. It is not indifference, but defense, a barricade built stone by stone out of the fear that intimacy will expose what they cannot bear. To confront, the avoidant fears abandonment, yes, but they fear something deeper still. The pain of connection followed by inevitable loss. This is the paradox they inhabit. To connect means to risk means to lose, and to lose means to suffer. And so they construct their walls, not to keep others out, but to keep themselves in. These walls are not merely barriers, they are prisons meticulously crafted to shield against the anguish of rejection, while unknowingly locking away the very fulfillment they crave. Their fear whispers lies, that love will destroy them, that reliance is weakness, that independence is the only safety. And in believing these lies, they forfeit the richness of life that comes only through genuine relationship. But here's the truth, that even the avoidant cannot escape. No human being can sever themselves entirely from the need for connection. It is written into our DNA, etched into the fabric of our souls by the Creator who made us for communion. It is not good for man to be alone, the Scriptures declare, and yet the avoidant battles this truth as though their very survival depends on isolation. They long for connection but fear its cost. This creates an inner conflict so profound that it often appears as indifference or detachment. But beneath that stoic exterior lies a storm, a yearning for acceptance and a terror of being unworthy of it. What then can be done? How does one pierce the armor of an avoidant without causing them to retreat further into their fortress? The answer is not found in force but in patience, not in demands but in understanding. The high-value partner, the one who commands the respect and fascination of the avoidant, does not chase, does not beg for entry into their hidden world. Instead, they stand firm in their own sense of worth, embodying the virtues of strength, independence, and self-respect. It is not manipulation, it is leadership. To inspire an avoidant to step out of their self-made prison, one must first demonstrate what freedom looks like. It is vital to understand that the avoidant's fear is not a sign of weakness, but of unresolved pain. Perhaps they have been burned by love before, betrayed by the very people who were supposed to care for them. Or perhaps they have internalized the false belief that to be loved, they must be perfect, flawless, invulnerable. And so they hide their imperfections, not realizing that true love does not demand perfection, but embraces it. They fear abandonment, but do not see that their own withdrawal perpetuates the cycle they wish to escape. The key is this fear loses its power when faced with unwavering truth. The truth that love is not a transaction, but a gift, not a guarantee, but a choice. The avoidant must come to see that vulnerability is not a threat, but an offering, an invitation to a deeper, richer experience of life. This transformation cannot be forced. It must be nurtured patiently and persistently. It is a journey, and like all journeys, it begins with a single step, the courage to confront the fear that has held them captive for so long. Emotional independence is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It is the foundation upon which a meaningful life is built and the magnetic force that draws others into your orbit, especially those who fear intimacy yet crave connection. The world teaches us subtly and overtly to seek validation in others, to anchor our sense of self in their approval. their affection, their acceptance. But this pursuit is not love, it is bondage. When you require someone else to complete you, you hand them the keys to your soul, entrusting them with a burden they were never meant to carry. And in doing so, you become a shadow of your potential, tethered to their perception of your worth. Consider the parable of the wise and foolish builders. The wise man built his house on the rock, while the foolish man built his on the sand. When the storms came, the house on the rock stood firm, but the one on the sand collapsed. Emotional independence is the rock. It is the unshakable foundation that allows you to weather the storms of life, the betrayals, the losses, the rejections, without crumbling. It is not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it, a state where your value is derived not from what others think of you, but from the truth of who you are. To an avoidant, emotional independence is not just attractive, it is awe-inspiring. Why? Because it represents everything they lack and everything they fear. The avoidant lives in a constant state of inner turmoil, torn between the desire for connection and the terror of dependence. When they encounter someone who does not cling, who does not demand, who stands firm in their own identity, it challenges their worldview. It forces them to confront the possibility that love does not have to be a trap, that intimacy does not have to mean surrendering control. This is why emotional independence is irresistible. It is not born of arrogance or detachment, but of self-awareness and discipline. It says, I am enough. With or without you, I am whole. And in that wholeness lies a power that cannot be faked, a strength that cannot be shaken. It is the quiet confidence of knowing that you are capable of facing life's challenges on your own, that your happiness is not contingent on another person's presence or approval. But do not mistake independence for isolation. Emotional independence does not mean closing yourself off from others. It means engaging with them from a place of abundance rather than need. It is the ability to give freely without expectation, because you are not seeking to fill a void. It is the capacity to walk away from relationships that diminish you, not out of bitterness, but out of respect for yourself. This is the essence of a high-value partner, someone who chooses love not because they lack, but because they overflow. In the scriptures, we are reminded that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. This is the truth at the core of emotional independence. You are not an accident, not an afterthought. You were designed with intention, with purpose, with value that cannot be diminished by the opinions of others. To live as though your worth depends on external validation is to deny this truth, to build your house on sand. But when you root yourself in the unchanging reality of your intrinsic value, you become unshakable. The journey to emotional independence is not an easy one. It requires confronting the lies you have believed about yourself, dismantling the narratives that have kept you bound. It demands courage, discipline, and an unwavering commitment to growth. But the reward is freedom, the freedom to love without fear, to connect without clinging, to stand firm in the face of rejection, because you know that it does not define you. To the avoidant, this freedom is a beacon of hope, a glimpse of what is possible. It is not something they can resist, because deep down, they long for it as much as anyone else. But they will only be drawn to it if it is genuine, if it is lived out with integrity and conviction. This is the challenge and the opportunity to become the person who embodies the strength, the stability, and the self-respect that they cannot ignore. Because in doing so, you not only transform your own life, but also offer them a vision of what their life could be. Self-respect is the cornerstone of every great life, the silent force that shapes your relationships, your ambitions, and your destiny. It is not given, it is earned through discipline, through the daily practice of aligning your actions with your values, and through the courage to demand more from yourself and from those around you. Without self-respect, you become a shadow of your potential, a person willing to accept less than you deserve, to settle for crumbs when the feast was always within reach. The scriptures say, love your neighbor as yourself. But how can you love your neighbor if you do not first love yourself? And how can you love yourself if you do not respect yourself? Respect begins with the recognition that your time, your energy, and your presence are valuable. It is a declaration that you will not squander the life you have been given, that you will not allow yourself to be diminished by the careless or the unworthy. Self-respect is not arrogance, it is humility before the truth of who you are and who you were created to be. To respect yourself is to honor the image of the divine within you, to live in a way that reflects your inherent worth. This is not an easy task. The world will try to convince you otherwise, to tell you that your value is conditional, that it depends on your appearance, your achievements, or the approval of others. But these are lies, and to believe them is to build your house on sand. To develop self-respect, you must first confront your habits. How do you spend your time? Who do you allow into your life? What standards do you hold yourself to? These questions are not trivial. They are the essence of character. If you allow yourself to be surrounded by those who drain you, who belittle you, who do not honor your boundaries, you send a message to yourself that you are not worth protecting. And if you fail to hold yourself accountable, to strive for excellence in your work, your relationships, and your responsibilities, you erode the foundation of your own self-regard. Self-respect is forged in the fire of integrity. It is saying no when no is needed, even when it is hard, even when it means disappointing others. It is standing by your principles, not because it is convenient, but because it is right. This is what it means to be a person of value, a person who commands respect from others not through force, but through example. The avoidant, often trapped in their own uncertainty, is drawn to this strength like a moth to a flame. They cannot help but notice someone who respects themselves because it is a quality they lack yet deeply admire. But self-respect is not merely about setting boundaries or achieving goals. It is also about grace, grace for yourself in moments of failure, grace for others when they fall short. It is knowing that perfection is not required for worthiness, that your mistakes do not define you, but how you rise from them does. This balance of strength and compassion is what makes self-respect so powerful. It is a force that both challenges and nurtures, that demands excellence while offering forgiveness. The high-value partner embodies this balance. They do not chase love, they attract it. They do not beg for respect, they inspire it. And they do not fear rejection because they know that their worth is not diminished by someone else's inability to see it. This is the person who captivates the avoidant, not because they play games, but because they live with purpose. Their self-respect is a lighthouse, a steady beam of light that cuts through the fog of fear and doubt. To respect yourself is to declare that you are worthy of love, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. It is to live in alignment with the truth that you were created for greatness, that your life has meaning, that your choices matter. And when you embody this truth, you become unstoppable, not only in your relationships, but in every area of your life. Because self-respect is not just a gift to yourself, it is a gift to the world, a testament to what is possible when you honor the divine within. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors. They do not shut people out, they invite the right ones in. Setting boundaries is an act of love, not only for yourself, but for those around you. It is the recognition that your time, energy, and emotional resources are finite, sacred, and not to be squandered on what diminishes you. A life without boundaries is a life without order, a life adrift, subject to the whims of others and the chaos of unexamined demands. To live without boundaries is to say yes to everything, and in doing so, to lose yourself. Boundaries are not born of selfishness, but of responsibility. In the book of Proverbs, we are told to guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. This is the essence of boundaries. To guard your heart is not to close it off, but to steward it wisely, to ensure that what enters and exits aligns with your values, your purpose, and your dignity. Boundaries are not a rejection of others, they are an affirmation of yourself. They declare, this is who I am, this is what I value, and this is what I will and will not tolerate. When you set boundaries, you teach others how to treat you. You show them what you stand for, what you expect, and what you will not compromise. This is not manipulation, it is leadership. To set a boundary is to take responsibility for your own well-being rather than placing that burden on others. It is to say, I will not blame you for overstepping if I have not clearly marked the line. Boundaries are the structure that allows relationships to thrive. Without them, resentment festers, expectations go unmet, and the very connections you seek to nurture begin to wither. For the avoidant, boundaries are both terrifying and magnetic. They are terrified of boundaries because boundaries represent limits, and limits mean confrontation. But they are also drawn to them because boundaries represent strength, clarity, and self-respect, all qualities they deeply admire but often struggle to embody. When you set boundaries, you offer the avoidant something they desperately need but cannot articulate a framework within which they can safely engage without losing themselves. To set boundaries is to exercise courage. It requires you to face the discomfort of saying no, of disappointing others, of standing firm in the face of pushback. But this discomfort is temporary, while the benefits of clear boundaries are lasting. Boundaries free you from the tyranny of people pleasing. They allow you to focus your energy on what truly matters. And they create space for the kind of relationships that nourish your soul rather than deplete it. Consider the example of Jesus, who was the ultimate embodiment of love, yet was not afraid to set boundaries. When the crowds pressed in on him, demanding more, he often withdrew to pray, to rest, to recharge. He did not allow others' expectations to dictate his actions. He healed the sick, fed the hungry, and taught the masses. But he also knew when to say no, when to walk away, when to focus on his mission rather than the demands of the moment. This is the model of healthy boundaries: to give freely but not endlessly, to serve others without sacrificing your own purpose and well-being. Boundaries are not rigid, they are flexible yet firm, adaptable yet unyielding in their core principles. They are not designed to punish, but to protect, not to isolate, but to create a space where authentic connection can flourish. When you set boundaries, you do not merely protect yourself, you elevate the standard of your relationships. You make it clear that you are a person of value, and you invite others to rise to meet that standard. For the avoidant, this is a revelation. They are used to people chasing them, bending over backward to accommodate their fears and insecurities. But when they encounter someone who sets boundaries, who says, "I will not chase you, but I will also not lower myself for you," it forces them to reevaluate. It challenges their assumptions about love and connection. It shows them that intimacy does not have to mean enmeshment, that respect is the foundation of true closeness. Setting boundaries is not the end of love, it is the beginning. It is the foundation upon which trust is built, the framework within which two people can meet as equals. To set a boundary is to say, "I love you enough to be honest with you, and I respect myself enough to demand the same in return." It is an act of faith in the power of healthy relationships and in the belief that you are worthy of them. And in that act, you invite not only respect, but also a deeper, truer connection than you ever thought possible. Growth is the essence of life. Without it, we stagnate, we wither, we lose the spark that drives us forward and the purpose that gives our existence meaning. Yet growth demands sacrifice. It demands that we confront our fears, let go of our comforts, and embrace the often painful process of transformation. In relationships, this principle is no different. Growth occurs not in the shallow waters of convenience, but in the deep currents of challenge, where the demands of love force us to become more than we were. To an avoidant, the idea of growth is both alluring and terrifying. They long for connection, yet fear the vulnerability it requires. They yearn for love, but are hesitant to surrender their independence. When they encounter a high-value partner, someone unafraid to demand growth, they are faced with a choice: remain in the safety of their old patterns or rise to meet the challenge of becoming more. This challenge is not a rejection. It is an invitation, an opportunity to step into a larger version of themselves. Growth in relationships begins with self-awareness. It requires you to look honestly at who you are, to confront your strengths and weaknesses with humility and courage. The psalmist writes, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts." This is the essence of self-awareness, inviting truth even when it is uncomfortable, and seeking understanding even when it reveals your flaws. A high-value partner does not settle for superficiality. They challenge you to engage in this process, to explore the depths of your soul and emerge stronger. But self-awareness is not enough. Growth requires action. It is not merely knowing what must change, but committing to change it, day by day, decision by decision. This is where many falter. The path of growth is steep and often lonely, demanding discipline and perseverance. Yet it is also rewarding, for each step forward brings not only personal transformation, but a deeper, more fulfilling connection with those you love. In this way, relationships become a crucible, a place where the impurities of selfishness and fear are burned away, leaving only the refined gold of mutual respect and genuine intimacy. For the avoidant, this process is both daunting and inspiring. They are accustomed to retreating when faced with difficulty, to withdrawing into their own world rather than confronting their fears. But a high-value partner does not allow this retreat. Instead, they hold up a mirror, showing the avoidant not only what they are, but what they could be. This is not done with judgment, but with compassion, not with demands, but with expectations that call forth their best self. Consider the parable of the talents. The servant who buried his talent in the ground out of fear was condemned not because he failed, but because he refused to try. Growth requires risk. It requires the willingness to step out of your comfort zone, to invest your time, your energy, and your heart in something greater than yourself. To love deeply is to risk deeply, but it is also to grow profoundly. And in that growth lies the true reward, not only the joy of connection, but the satisfaction of becoming all you were meant to be. A high-value partner embodies this principle. They do not settle for mediocrity in themselves or in others. They challenge their partner not because they wish to dominate, but because they wish to elevate. They see the potential within and are willing to do the hard work of drawing it out. This is not control, it is love. For love, at its core, is a commitment to the growth and well-being of another, even when it requires sacrifice, even when it demands patience, even when it tests the limits of your strength. To demand growth in a relationship is not to be cruel, it is to be kind. It is to say, I believe in you enough to ask for more, and I care about you enough to help you achieve it. This is the essence of a high-value connection. Not two people content to remain as they are, but two people committed to becoming more together. It is a partnership of purpose, a union that transcends the fleeting pleasures of the moment and builds something lasting, something meaningful, something that transforms not only the individuals involved, but the world around them. For the avoidant, this is a revelation. They are not used to being seen in this way, not used to being challenged to grow. Yet, when they encounter a partner who demands more, they are given a choice to shrink back into their fears or to rise to the occasion. And in that choice lies their potential for transformation, not just as a partner, but as a person. The allure of mystery is not found in deceit or pretense, but in depth. It is the richness of a soul cultivated through struggle, reflection, and growth. Mystery captivates because it hints at something greater, something worth exploring. It is not the absence of truth, but the presence of layers, the promise of discovery, and the subtle whisper that there is always more to understand. The high-value individual does not craft mystery as a strategy, they embody it as a reality. They are not an open book with all the answers given away. They are a living story, a work in progress, and a source of endless fascination. Mystery does not mean withholding or concealing. It is not about creating distance for the sake of control. Rather, it is about living a life so rich, so full of purpose, that it naturally intrigues those who encounter it. A mysterious person is not enigmatic because they refuse to share, but because they have so much to share that it cannot all be grasped at once. Their complexity invites curiosity, their depth inspires respect, and their authenticity ignites admiration. In the Gospel of Matthew, Christ often spoke in parables. He did not do this to confuse, but to provoke thought, to challenge his listeners to delve deeper, to seek understanding rather than settle for surface-level answers. This is the power of mystery. It invites engagement, it calls for exploration, it transforms passive observation into active participation. A high-value partner embodies this principle. They live in a way that challenges others to think, to question, to grow. Their life is a testament to the idea that what is worth knowing cannot always be immediately understood. The avoidant personality, so often ensnared by their own fears, is both intrigued and unsettled by mystery. They are drawn to it because it represents what they lack, a life lived with intention and depth. Yet they are hesitant because mystery demands engagement, and engagement requires vulnerability. The high-value partner does not resolve this tension by making themselves smaller or more predictable. Instead, they remain steadfast in their authenticity, allowing the avoidant to grapple with their discomfort, and in doing so, discover their capacity for deeper connection. Mystery is not a shield, it is a mirror. It reflects the truths of the one who encounters it, revealing their assumptions, their insecurities, and their desires. To encounter someone with depth is to be confronted with your own depths, or the lack thereof. This is why the avoidant, often accustomed to superficial interactions, finds themselves captivated by the high-value individual. They are not merely intrigued by the other person, they are challenged to explore themselves. To cultivate mystery in your life is to commit to continuous growth, to be always learning, always questioning, always striving for more. It is to live in alignment with the belief that life is not a problem to be solved, but a journey to be embraced. It is to pursue your passions, to honor your values, and to engage with the world in a way that is both intentional and open-hearted. This kind of mystery cannot be faked. It must be earned through the daily discipline of living a meaningful life. In relationships, mystery is not about playing games or withholding affection. It is about being a person of substance, someone whose presence enriches others not because of what you give, but because of who you are. It is about maintaining your individuality even as you connect deeply with another. This is not selfishness, it is integrity. To lose yourself in a relationship is not love, it is self-abandonment. True intimacy is built on the foundation of two whole individuals coming together, each bringing their unique depth and richness to the partnership. For the avoidant, this is a revelation. They are accustomed to relationships that demand either too much or too little. But the high-value partner, with their depth and mystery, offers a third path, a connection that is both challenging and fulfilling, both grounded and inspiring. This kind of relationship does not force the avoidant to change, but invites them to grow, to step into the fullness of who they are, to become someone capable of engaging with the depth they so admire. To live a life of mystery is to honor the sacredness of existence, to recognize that you are not a finished product, but a work in progress. It is to embrace the complexity of the human experience, to seek understanding without demanding simplicity, to value the questions as much as the answers. And in doing so, you not only enrich your own life, but also become a source of inspiration, challenge, and transformation for those around you. For mystery is not about hiding who you are, it is about revealing the infinite potential within.